Hey everybody and welcome to this week's Adventures with Peps. We are painting this old Mongoose Publishing 28mm RiotJudge for the Judge Dredd gaming system they produced. I'm obviously going to be using this in the I Am the Law by Warlord games. We're going to kick off with the Corax White, and we are just going to give this a heavy old dry brush. And while I'm doing that, let's talk about the Justice Department Riot Control. Oh my god, it just flew off the paint handle. Good job this is made of metal. Let's try this again. Right, we seem to be back in play. Right, when a block war erupts, the men, women and robot auxiliaries of the Justice Department bear the brunt of quelling the fighting and preventing it spilling into a multi-block war. Assault judges are all hand-picked veterans pulled from the ranks of street judges and trained to bring an end to criminal activity in the speediest and most brutal manner possible. And it flew off again. What is going on? Change paint handle. It's always something, isn't it? You can't just get on with painting and talking. Right, where were we? Most brutal manner possible. Equipped with riot shields and either a day stick or a disruptor gun, they are deployed during the very worst of block wars to target leaders and combatants who have managed to get hold of heavy weapons. Stern, unyielding, and covered in heavyweight armor, the riot judges are trained to handle large mobs. Riot judges operate in small teams and are trained and equipped to contain, pacify and arrest unruly citizens, only sweeping in to break heads when there are few other options. Now this one has the riot foam upgrade. The gun just looks quite comical compared to the newer sculpts. But hey, that's the joy of these older models. But in my opinion, even though this is a real chunky model and he doesn't look as pretty as maybe he once did, he is very close to the artwork with the big Riot logo written on his forehead. He's got those man-trap shoulder pads. The gun is just this unyielding tube. It looks like an over-the-top fire extinguisher. One thing Mongoose Games did do right with their judges. A lot of their figures suffered just a bit like Warlord Games do as well, with weird scaling issues. But they really nailed the character of this generation of judges, which I like to think are the earlier ones. We're talking like 80s into the 90s, whereas Warlord Games are very much early 2000s into the 2020s, in my opinion. All right, time to get some color down. Base coat of Abaddon Black. This is purely going to be used on the helmet. Now, we're going to try our best to be as neat as possible. Follow the lines that are there. Got to remember the writing I want to stay white because it's got a pop on this model. And then at the front of the helmet, he's got to have that red banding that they have going on. So I'm just going to try and be as neat as I humanly can be. I am not the neatest of painters. Put my hand up to that one. But as you can see, I'm trying to keep a point on my brush and I'm just doing straight lines for the most part. With the black now drying, we're going to grab our first contrast paint, which is the Levedon. I can never say this color. Levedon Blue. And we're going to use this on the uniform. It'll come out a nice dark blue. Very hard to see on the model. I probably could have been a bit bolder with the dry brushing. But it is going to be a very nice dark blue that I love to have my judges in. It's a nice mix because some people like to paint them black. We've had this discussion before. Some like them blue. So I go for this very dark blue. And I leave the pure black for the SJSs, which are coming up soon actually. Got a few of them to paint up from the older range, plus SJS Judge Gerhard, I believe his name was. Going to be exciting to paint them. A little change up from the judges. I am doing pretty well in my backlog, which is great news for me. I do have the ABC Warriors coming in January, so in a couple of weeks hopefully. I'm super excited to break open that kit. And those models look massive compared to these judges, so they're going to be fun to do on a whole new scale. I actually have 2 sets coming. One is being kindly donated by Warlord Games for me to review, but I had already bought one myself, so I got 2 coming in, which is quite nice because that means I'm going to try and do a Hammerstein in the paint scheme that I like, where he's the orangey brown scheme. And then we're also going to do one like the Vulcan War scheme, which is grey metallics. So we'll actually have a couple of videos to do with that going on. And maybe I'll just give away some models as well. There might be a few models that I'm going to get doubles of because of this. And there might not actually be a valid reason for me to have 2 beyond me being greedy. So maybe we'll do a little giveaway on the channel. Maybe I'll paint one up and donate to a subscriber. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's skip forward. There's only so much blue and me waffling you guys can take. Up next is the Flesh Tear Red. Now this is going on extremely bright. It looks really bright. When it dries, and you'll see the photos at the end, it got real dark. I don't know what's going on. Totally went darker than I thought it was going to. I thought I had a good bead of white going on, but obviously I didn't, and it really darkened down to the point that I'm probably going to go back and brighten them back up. I do like the red bead to stand out, and sadly it just didn't this time. We're also going to do a bit of the foam gun in red as well, just to help it pop. There was a part of me that wanted to draw an arrow that just said this way and have it pointing towards the front of the gun so that you knew which way the foam was coming out. But then I remembered they are Justice Department. If this was a criminal gang, then I probably would have done it because that would just be comical. With the Flesh Tear Red done, we moved on to Orc Skin Green. We picked out his boots, the knee pads, the gloves, and some gear on his chest, which I believe is probably a respirator type system. The thing that I found interesting with this model, he doesn't have Justice Department gloves. They're like little hand gloves rather than the full like lower arm glove. He also doesn't have elbow pads. Don't know if that was just a decision by the sculptor to maybe give them flexibility to spray their gunk everywhere. But it seemed a weird choice to me. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a true Judge Dredd model if it doesn't have the big old chunky elbow pads. They really seem to be lacking for me. But hey, otherwise this model, because it is very much hand sculpted and doesn't seem to have any computer generated work on it, it really has a lot of detail and human fault to it that the contrast paints love. So they're really picking up on all the details that are there, even if the model is a bit chunky feeling. For the piping, I decided to use purple. This isn't a colour I pick up very often. To be honest, I don't know why I picked it up today. It just was calling out to me to be used, and I felt it would fit. It'd be an interesting pop of colour on the model. It doesn't over the top stand out against the blue, which I also find great. This is a military style uniform, so I think they'll keep to some similar schemes. It's just a nice dark colour that will stand out a little bit. It's not black. It's not hazard yellow and black. It's just a nice purple colour. Very simple. There's 2 of these tubes, one on each side. So just taking my time, making sure it doesn't bleed into anything. Keep it nice and neat. Then for the small amount of what would be classified metal, I'm using the Runic Grey by the Army Painter. I haven't got a nice Games Workshop grey, so I'm using the Army Painter. I'm just not a fan of metallic paint. I've said it a lot of time. I do use it on my 40k models, but on my Judge Dredds, I am avoiding it at all costs. So I'm using this grey. I'm just going to pick out a couple of areas that I feel would be metallic, just to make it a nice grey shade. And we can move on to the next step. And that next step is going to be Nazdrag yellow. I've done his face mask in it. I'm going to do his shoulder pads next. This is a very nice, rich golden yellow. I like using it to represent bronze and gold color. I also find it makes an excellent base coat for yellow paint later on, because it's not over the top, but it gives it a good solid base to go off. I will be finishing the model with some Uriel yellow, which will really brighten up the shoulder pads. And this just gives it the lovely color that I need. It also shades everything down nicely, so I don't have to worry about that when I'm going over it later. Nice, quick, easy step. I'm also going to do his backpack in that color. It's going to stand out once I've done the Uriel on everything, because it'll just look like a darker orange shade. Now that the model is pretty much dried, I've grabbed the Uriel yellow. I'm going to start picking out some of the details, like his face mask. I want to try and keep some of the dark areas as dark as possible. So hard. Under these lights, I find Citadel paints dry up so quick. I don't know if anyone else suffers from that. Even when I water them down, see, look, it's just dry on the brush. And I'm definitely got plenty on the brush. It's crazy. So I've got to wash my brush, load up again, and see if we can get a smooth coat on it. I just want to get these shoulder pads done, and when they're done, we are pretty much ready for photos and signing off. So I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Hope I inspired you to get some paint on your brush. This is going to be the last miniature of 2024. It's been a great 2023. We're going into 2024. I've had a great year when it comes to painting figures. I plan to keep that going. Hope you'll continue along on this adventure with me. Drop a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will catch you on the other side. Cheers for watching.